Hello D&Ders, RPGers, Game Masters and the like. Today I'm going to speak about Omnibus, which is the White Box Omnibus. So I'm going to give a little bit of history, and I understand how it's going to be compatible with the Charlie Mason version of this incarnation of White Box Fantastic Medieval Adventure game. To start off with, of course, you go to my webpage. I have a bunch of these videos up for links, and we're going to talk about several things. This is the White Box 3rd edition. This is what was in print. I guess originally it was done with Matt Finch. To kind of look at this thing, this is what it looks like, the inside cover. I love that picture right there of the wizard. But that is, this was by, it says Marv Breig and Matt Finch put this together, right? So to kind of look through this whole thing, to understand there's one key part of this whole thing that it kind of went sort of out of production, I guess. You can still get print on demand. The problem with it is a little bit about formatting, and they could have made things a little simpler, and Charlie Mason took advantage of that and made things simpler and added to it. It's not bad. I think it's a little overpriced. It's like $50 for the book or something like this if you buy it on eBay or Amazon. And it's a digest-sized book, so it's sort of small, so it seems highly overpriced for what you're getting. It depends on whether you like it or not. So what they did was they looked at the original rule set that was in the White Box back in 1974, and they decided to rewrite it because it was actually hard to acquire. And so a lot of it is just taken and put in a vernacular that makes it a whole lot easier to understand, and it's sort of kind of makes it way easier to read. The one thing that it has a disadvantage on is this, which is showing you the hit tables. A lot of people don't like this. It makes it a little more complicated than what it needs to be for doing certain things. To kind of go into a general overthink of White Box, when the Charlie Mason took it, and he went beautiful on this thing. He attributes everybody for what they've contributed to this thing, but he grabbed a single artist. And the artist is, I'm going to give claim for what they are. The artist is, come on. William McCausland. That one person did all the art, which makes it sort of a unified thing, done in this really, really awesome looking black and white illustration. And there's a character sheet that I'm not a real big fan of, but the rest of it kind of looks good. He took a bunch of the tables and tried to simplify it. He wrote the thing very easy to read, digest side. Like I said, there's the table if you like, the character sheet if you like it. I'm not the biggest fan. And immediately kind of wrote this thing in a way that seems much, I think the font is nicer, the whole layout's nicer, it's smaller, and the book is cheaper. He sells this at cost on Amazon for like $4.29, which is a whole lot cheaper than the other one that you saw, the third printed one, which is this one back here. It's so much more expensive. Like you could just see the font layout looks nicer. It's a matter of what you like, and I think he just wants people to play the game. So some of this stuff, when this came out, Swords of Wizardry, going back to this one, in 2008, right? James Spahn came out with the Omnibus years later, right? And it's to be used with Swords of Wizardry White Box. And then after, this is Barrel Rider Games, after a while, then Charlie Mason put his version of the White Box out, which is pretty much the standard a lot of people like to use now. The one thing that makes it a whole lot easier, this is 2-hit base bonus rate. It makes it a lot easier than having to use these tables here on trying to figure out, what is your hit thing. It automatically is taken to adjustment right here by just saying you add this to your roll. You don't need a big table, which is actually pretty smart, right? So once again, it's just a matter of trying to make it in a usable, friendly thing. I go through this a little, actually in a whole lot more detail in the other videos, but just kind of let you know, I think the unifying art really, really singles it out. So like I said, in this book, it's not unified art, and the art is not, I don't think there's as much art, and some of the art changes a little bit based on what you're seeing. So like this, there's a sort of a dragon, and then you can see with the other parts, it's just not as, how would you say, cohesive. That's kind of the word I'm looking for, cohesiveness, right? So just to start off, just to let you know, this does what you're going to see with the White Box Omnibus, it's compatible with both of them. So if you like this one, it works the same way. So without further ado, I'm going to get rid of these two things and just go straight into the Omnibus, and we'll talk about this. So the Omnibus itself is available on RPG. It is pay what you want situation. They suggest $10 for the PDF. I got the hardcover book. And it was around 20 some odd dollars or something like that. I think when they click this thing, it says $30 for the book. Like I said, it's one of these things where you got to cover the cost of printing and stuff. But I like the book. I like the hardbound book. I also got the hardbound book for the other one, Fantastic Medieval Adventure Game. So they're the same size, which I think was kind of cool that they kept it that way. So let's take a look at this thing. I just want to start this video, because there's several videos I think I'm going to do for this one, is just based on the classes that he adds to it. So the original White Box, and I guess we should go up here and take a look at it, there's only 3 classes, right? And then Charlie gave the fourth in the book, which is a little different than what was in the original Swords and Wizardry White Box. So you have the Cleric class, and a beautiful picture of a Cleric right here with his war mace, right? The other class you got was the Fighter, right? Which is, the fighting man is what it was originally called. The Fighter, and he's the guy go out there and do the stuff. Then you end up with the Magic User. Those were originally the 3 classes, right? Charlie go ahead and added the Thief class. The Thief class was not in the original books, right? So it's considered quote-unquote optional here. That's why you'll see it repeated in the White Box Omnibus, because it was not in the original Swords of Wizardry White Box. So, and he said, I'm just going to add it here, and he does the thieving skills here, which makes it really, really nice that these skills are all done by 1d6. So skill checks are 1d6, and everything else is 1d20 for hits, right? Some people like to do roll under stats for checking things, and you could do that. I tend to do those. I like to do that. People like to roll dice, so I just give them plenty of opportunity to roll dice. In this book, they do give you the different races here, the dwarf, and the elf, and then you end up with also half-elf and the halfling. Okay, so you have some options here, right? So let's look at the White Box Omnibus and see what it adds to it, because it makes it a little interesting. First off, your class options, it's really kind of nice. First of all, he takes the Cleric class and breaks it into 3 different ones: a healer, an undead slayer, and a war priest. Now, for everything you get a bonus on, you're going to lose a little on. So if you're a healer, you get to actually do a little more healing, right? Once per day, you could touch someone, heal them for the number of hit points equal to twice the current level. But it's a -1 to your base hit bonus for all eternity. That's permanent, right? Undead slayers, you get to actually turn the undead as something 2 levels higher than you, but you can never cast a 5th level spell. That might be interesting for some. And then the war priest, you give up all casting of 5th level spells to use any kind of weapon, which means the ones that shed blood that aren't, how would you say, blunt, right? So this is a kind of a cool take on this. I like that. The other one is the Fighter. These are really, I like these little things here. One of them is a marksman. You get a +1 base to hit bonus if you have a ranged weapon, right? But everything else is -1. So that's if you're using a melee weapon. Swashbuckler is you get to use 2 weapons, but you do not get to use heavy armor, right? But you get an extra hit. So this is one thing that's a little sketchy. So if you're a 4th level fighter fighting 1st level goblins, in the original thing, you get to hit 4 times or hit 4 different objects because of your level. So I guess if you have 2 weapons, you get to hit 8. So there's a little, maybe the Game Master makes a choice on those. I don't know. Anyways, last one is weapon specialization. And I don't see this as being a penalty, right? So you get that's the one thing that this only one doesn't give you a penalty on the back end. So in this case, you could just get a +1 if you decide I'm going to be good at a double hand sword. So that's the one that just grants you everything. Then he breaks the Illusionists into 3 different classes. Illusionists, these guys get -2 to anybody's saving throw when we're trying to resist whatever illusion, charm, or whatever you're using. The other thing is, like, any time a spell is thrown at you, you get a +1 to your roll because you understand the concept of these spells. Necromancers, they're able to basically banish or control the undead, just like a cleric. And it's sort of interesting. I kind of like that. Never played it, right? It's a different concept of using this thing. So it's like a very evil spellcaster, I guess you want to say. And the scholar, basically, you get a +1 saving throw to resist any spell effect, right? So these are options. So here's something that I've never ever had an attraction to, but a lot of people like, especially in the world of 5e. It's bards. How do you put a bard in this thing? So he takes the idea as the traveling minstrels and storytellers and put the bard class into White Box, and some people would like this. And they get this thing called lore, which is going to be explained. I like how this is set up, because he gives this thing in the end, he explains what each one of these things are. So it gets a new thing, lore, and then you get these spells that start to show up as you get higher. And basically, in White Box, the 10th level is pretty much the capped level. I guess you can go beyond that, but would be the sense. It kind of loses its fun. So he gets to use wear leather and chainmail armor and use shields, but then you get this thing lore. Whenever he encounters a magical item, he can examine it and discern the history. So, and this may reveal specific magical properties at the referee's discretion. This is kind of a cool concept. So getting the ability to do lore would be just kind of like, as you get older, anybody can grab anything. It's almost like a read magic, sort of, in a way. I got a sword. What is the background and what can it do, kind of thing. That's kind of cool. And it talks about spell casting, right? That's where you got to find your spells, and a little about this. Now, he actually, and this is James Spahn, boxes out different house rules that I guess he's used or people have used over the years. The charmer concept, right? And others suffer a penalty to the roll. Inspire performer, and you can decide as a game master, or the playing character might say, I want this, and the game master decides whether they would allow it. And so then they have this thievery, right? Another thing too. So obviously it's something to consider. You could say lore, it also accounts for thievery as well, or they're steps behind the actual thief class. Druid, this is fascinating. They're kind of like clerics. They do have cleric-like spells, except they're neutral, and they basically provide their power from nature itself. So I like this, and I like the category called forestry. This is really cool, right? So kudos on this, right? And here's the spell advancement, right? And they start accruing spells pretty much on second level, but they're able to do things. Now, turning the undead may be something they may not do, right? I think they get the bonus of the forestry. Now, forestry itself is going to be something that's shared between this class and the ranger class. So they can go into the flora and the fauna and describe, what it is, do tracking, whatever it is. Now, this is on a 1d6. So if you start off here, like forestry is a 2, so they got a 33% chance of being able to figure out what animal went through here or what kind of plants they are. Are they edible, right? So that's kind of cool. And so once you get to 4th level, it's a 50-50 chance you can figure that out. They also have, and this is really cool, the ability encounter a wild natural beast, he may use the ability to soothe and calm the animal. So 50-50. You see some wolves coming at you and you're going to use your forestry skills to calm this down. That might be really, really cool, right? I like that. So then they also get saving throws based on, things environmental, cold and fire and stuff. And then they follow this thing. And he shows the actual house rules, the alignment saying neutral, they have a certain language, and to get past 7th level, they must basically prove themselves against another 7th level druid, right, to get to 7th level. So they have to climb in that means, right? Monk class, these guys are awesome, right? They basically, and there's a little wiggle in here when we start talking about it, and it's monk. This is from, of course, Advanced D&D had the monk class. They actually have it in Swords and Wizardry Complete. This thing just takes it, and obviously the cool thing about this, you're just using 6-sided dice and 20-sided dice for all your stuff in White Box. So there's a cool thing. I can grab a bunch of people over the house, and nobody has to have a complete set of dice. I have plenty of 20s and plenty of 6s. We can play a game, right? So the cool thing about the monk class, they can't wear armor, but their armor class increases in level. So basically a 5th level monk essentially would have an armor class of 15. So it's 10 for unarmor, and you basically get a +5 because you're able to either deflect things being shot at you or dodge, right? They also get the power of the unarmed damage strikes, right? And what makes this interesting is that I don't know if they're saying just one-handed or two-handed. So if you make a strike, is that with both hands that you get a 1d6 or not? That could be game master discretion. Whenever it says 1d6 -1, I, in my groups, always make it a minimum of 1. You can't get a 0. If you make a, say you roll a 19 to hit, you did hit the guy, and all of a sudden you get a -1, so you get a 0. I just say it's just a minimum of 1, but you can never make a 6, essentially, is what it is. So they get the idea of stealth, which is kind of a cool trait, sort of like what the thieves would have, but this is specifically for the monks here. So specialized, perfecting their body, unarmed combat. See, they're believing that these would be, I guess, both hands are doing that much damage. I guess it would be overpowered, OP'd, if they were basically doubling that, so that would make sense, I guess, right? So here's the other part. I forgot to really. Once they get to 4th level, it's equivalent to a magical weapon, so they're able to hit things, say ghosts or shadows, that would normally be not affected by a hand strike. And stealth, and this is obviously 1d6. They do get certain meditations once they get to 4th level, which gives them the ability to heal themselves, cure disease, and neutralize poison. It's really cool. And he throws in a couple of house rules. You can basically say yes or no to these things, which are kind of cool because they great box it. James did a great job with this. Like I said, the Paladin, that's a favorite character for some of the Holy Warrior that comes out to do his thing. Eventually, he's going to gain the ability to use spells. And of course, the other one is that he gets a healing touch, which equals the number of hit points equal to the current level. And so that's something to consider. People like the Paladin because it's just the Holy Avenger stuff, and he can actually be messed with a whole lot in a game. This is the other one. A lot of people, Paladin has the ability to turn the undead by 2 levels less than a Cleric. That's a house rule is very common. I like how, like I said, the boxing is you can add it or not add it depending on the game master. A ranger, once again, is a ranger like everybody probably have seen in the other games. They got the forestry skill, which is super cool, right? And of course, they have the giant slayer, and certain things are basically, you get add his base to hit bonus to his weapon damage to increase the amount of damage he's doing against these. So obviously at 1st level, what is his base to hit bonus is 0, so it's not going to help. But once you get to 2nd level, you get a punch in the amount of damage you're doing to things. That's kind of the way that's going to go. And they accrue their spells in a fashion. Once they get 5th level, they get a magic user spell. 6th level, they basically get magic users and cleric level spells. Oh, they do have to, like I said, these house rules can apply or not apply, right? A 2nd attack combat round if you're going to do 2-handed fighting. Like I said, the original one didn't have the thief class, so he put it in here, and obviously with Charlie Mason's white box back here, you do get the thief class, and they basically are identical, just letting you know, right? So a thief is, you get the backstab, and you get a saving throw, and you get thieving skills, and he has a thieving skill 2, 2, 2, 2. Let's look and see in comparison, he has a thieving skill 1 down through here, right? So Charlie Mason, I think, is a little more generous. So it's this is 1 out of 6. The other one's 2 out of 6, which is a 33% chance with the other one. Once again, these guys get restrictions because they only wear leather armor, and they get the backstab, and they double their damage, right? So of the two, I like the other one better, unless this one was kind of like you get to add your dexterity bonus to it, right? So that's like a game master thing. Decide whether or not you want that or not, right? He puts thieves can't deciphering a language, poison, that means they're tagging onto the assassin class later on, and the idea of a proficient climber. So this pretty much covers all the things in White Box Omnibus that can be applied to fantastic medieval adventure games, White Box. So it's a matter of, it's kind of cool. They are compatible, very much so. I think the thief class, like I said, this thief class in the Fantastic Medieval Adventure game is much better as far as like your ability to do thieving skills. With that, I thank you for your time, and look for more of my videos.